Well, welcome back to Hillbilly Shipwright. We are working on our Muscongus Bay Lobster Smack here. And this is the third boat in a series of progressive model tutorials. That's exactly what it says right there. By Model Shipways there. And this was a 3-boat kit. And in our last video, we got our deck on. And I did kind of fill in and build up a little bit the stern section here because mine was kind of a little flat. I didn't really sand as much as I should have on frame 10 here to kind of give us that good fall off to the port and starboard side there like it should have been. So I just used some filler there to take care of that. Now the filler that I'm using is the okra, and this is a water-based crack filler. Works really good, sands really nice, and we're probably going to need it also on the planking there. So with all that done, I think the next thing up is our fairing in of our frames. So those frames, we need to do some sanding on that. So let's jump over to the bench here and kind of prep everything and get ready and fair all this in. And so that way our planks will lay in like they're supposed to. So let's take a look at that. All right, let's get over here. Let's see. Fairing the hull, step 9 and sheet 11. We have our sheet 11 here. And it's going to tell us this will require a flexible sanding stick. Start by rubber cementing a strip of 100 or 150 grit sandpaper onto the 1/32 inch wood strip. Okay, yeah, I've read through all this, and I'm sure you have too if you're building the boat. I won't reread everything. So we're going to make a strip to help us, and then also it does tell us about a similar bevel towards the stern. They're talking about back here. Similar bevel is needed near the stern here. The sanding dowel will be most useful in the hollow areas. Study the photograph below to understand what is needed. Attention to this now will result in a smooth planking job later. Okay, so sanding stick and a sanding dowel. That's what we need to think about. So what we have here is sheet 11, and they do have us a sanding stick right there. So we're going to need to cut that out. So the idea behind this is we're going to use some rubber cement and glue on a piece of sandpaper. That way, when we go to sand, probably won't need my stands for this, we'll be able to bend it around the area that we need to sand, and we'll just catch the high spots and get everything faired in. That's the ideal behind that. So let's see, we're going to need some stuff here. I got some sandpaper. I'm using 120 here. 100 to 150 is fine. It's not going to be an issue. You don't want to go real fine though, because it'll take you forever to sand this in. And don't worry about these being perfectly smooth. Having the sanding marks and stuff in the frames is fine, because that will give a little bit of extra grip for the glue to hold the planks on. So it's not a finish type sanding that we're doing here. Just a good smooth transition is what we're looking to do. We're not going to worry about the finish of it because we're going to be gluing stuff over top of it there. So I don't think I really need the entire stick to be sandpaper. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do as much as I got there on sandpaper there. I think that's going to work out fine. So what we have here is some rubber cement. And let's see, I kind of mark. I don't need to put a lot of rubber cement in places where we don't need it. So what we need to do now is get some rubber cement on here. So this is the Elmer's No Wrinkle Rubber Cement you can get at your hobby store. It works good. I just don't need all that rubber cement up the brush there. This stuff dries pretty quick, so it's not a big deal here. Will be a big deal if we don't get enough on there. Because it won't stick. All right, so that's my rubber cement there. Now we need to put it on our sanding stick, if I can pick it up. So if you've never used rubber cement before, you put the rubber cement on the two pieces you want to stick together and you let it dry. If I can get it on there. There we go. All right, so we need to let that dry. So I think I've given it enough time to dry here. So all we got to do now, yeah, I think it's dry enough, is lay our stick right on it. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it off. And I'm going to use these. These are the type of scissors that you see all the time that are supposed to cut through chicken bone and a penny and all that stuff. Not particularly great, but they work for all kinds of stuff. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be using good scissors to cut sandpaper. So that's primarily what I use these for. There we are. Trim up the other side there. And I'm just laying the scissor right in next to the wood there. Trimming off the excess. And you don't have to be particularly accurate, I don't guess. But we got a nice sanding stick now. So we're done with that part. So this will enable us to actually sand and keeping the profile at the same time. That's the ideal behind that. Now, when it comes to our stern section here, what I've done is I went ahead and made this up. And this is just a dowel, as you can see there. And I use the rubber cement to affix the sandpaper to the dowel. I even got a little carried away and put a little handle on it there just in case I needed it. I don't think you need it, but that's what I did. I think it's 1 inch. Let me see. What size dowel did I use? It's about 1 inch. No, I'm sorry. It's 7/8. If you measure it in the right spot. So turn my calipers back off. There we go. And it's not particularly sticking very well in some places, but that's okay. I'm not going to use that up there to sand. We're going to be using it down here to get this in right there, as you can see. And this is 120 again. As you can see, it starts to get everything pretty quick there. So we are prepared now to start our sanding. Now, I did think about putting some extra wood in up here at the bow to give us a little bit more thickness there to sand, because you really don't have much. It's awful thin. But then I got to thinking, when we go to put our keel, laminate our keel port and starboard pieces on, we're going to leave a little rabbet there for our planks to actually go into. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. So I think I'm just going to leave it off. I'm not going to worry about it. So we're going to head to the garage, and then we are going to start fairing in all of these frames and everything, and get it sanded down. Now, one other thing I will say, you can use your sanding stick here to check your contact areas, you know, and your progression in sanding, because you want a nice gentle curve, or at least a nice consistent curve, and you want to do that left and right, or port to starboard. Now, if you're not going to use that sanding stick, you can also use a thin strip of wood to do the exact same thing. I mean, that's really what you're doing: thin strip of wood, thin strip of wood. So, and bigger model ships kits, they tell you to use a piece of the planking. So that's the only reason why I mentioned that. All right, let's get over to the garage. Okay, so one other thing before we go to the garage. I just took a piece of card, index cards work, whatever. And the reason why I'm doing this is I want this thick piece of paper here to be like a scuff guard to sit right here for our center board, because I don't want to be sanding and cutting in anything into our center board. So as we fair each side of it there, we can just move it over. It's no big deal there. And that'll keep us from sanding marks into our center board. And you don't really want to do that. Okay, so try to protect it, or put some tape on it or something there. Just whatever you do to protect it. That way you don't have anything that you're going to have to fill and sand out later there. That's probably way too long there. There we go. That's much better. Okay, now we can go to the garage. All right, so we've moved to the garage to do our sanding. And I am going... I've got my flexible sanding stick there. And I also have our dowel sanding device. And I brought my sanding block too, which I want to start using the sanding block. And what I want to do first is I am going to take care of these little areas right here where it is just proud, give me something to point with here, of the outer part of our spine, which is the profile there, that we need to meet up to there. As you can see, the frames in some spots extend beyond it right there, and then towards the stern there we've got the same thing going on. So we need to go ahead and knock that down, and I'm going to do that with my sanding block right up against the keel there. And I also have the added structural supports that I put in. That's not part of the kit. So as you can see, it comes down really quick. So we need to be careful that we don't sand into our pattern there of the spine. So we're just going to flush up that stuff, and also along where we've got these additional blocks, and start the profile in. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll take a look at what we got. So I've taken and knocked those down right there, as you can see, all the way up to the bow. Same thing on the opposite side there. And kind of started changing the angle here on my extra bracing there. But I want to stop doing that right now, because the next thing we need to do is we need to get our sides symmetrical. And right here on frame 5, as you can see, it doesn't extend all the way to the edge of the deck there. We got the same thing on the opposite side, but not quite as much. That's okay. My concern there is the frame behind it, frame 6, because we're going to have to knock it down to the deck anyway there. So we need to reduce frame 6 so that it's more in line with our frames 4 and 5 there. So I'm going to start working on that. I just need to knock it down. As you can imagine, this is a little bit difficult to do on on camera. We're getting there. Almost there. I need to go where I can see it. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. See, if I look at it like this, I can tell where I'm at. Getting there. Yeah, so we're right there at it now. So that's good. So I want to knock down the other side here on frame 6 and kind of see where we're at there. Okay, so I got them both knocked down on frame 6 there. So the next thing I need to do is I need to bring our deck into alignment here with frame 5. So in order for me to do that, I need to knock down the frame ahead of it. That'd be frame 4. I'm going to do the same way. We're going to be using the deck as our guide. As you can see, it goes really quick. And there's a lot of pressure going on here. That's why I put all these extra supports in there, so that I wouldn't be twisting everything, although the deck does give it some stability. So here we are. That's looking pretty good. So I need to make this deck come in nicely onto frame 5 there. As you can see, it's just a little bit proud. So we're going to, I don't know if you can see it or not. Yeah, that's nice right there. I'm gonna double check everything here, kind of see how it all lays in. Yeah, see there? By knocking those corners off, we're getting to lay in right along the deck there, which is the profile that we want. So I'm going to fix the other side right here, right around frame 5, because I need to just pull in that deck up just a little bit, just like we did here. We're going to have to do that over here too. And then you want to be real careful not to sand too aggressively there on the frame 5, because that's setting the width right there for us. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this, and then we'll look at the others. Okay, so on this side right here, which would be our starboard side, you can see that I don't have all the char sanded off right there. Well, that's okay. We've got our angle going right. Everything's good there. One thing that I do want to check is from my slot there, and just behind the frame, as you can see through the slot and on the edge there where the frame is, I want to take a measurement right there. Looks like about 9.5 mils. If I come over here and do the same thing, I'm about a mil off there. Half a mil. Half a mil doesn't seem like a whole lot, but I do need it to match. So I'm going to go ahead and take this side down here, just that half a mil. And then I'm going to remeasure it there, both sides, port and starboard, because when we get it built, we want all of our cabin area, of course, to be in the center of our deck. that's going to be one of those things that draws the eye, and we don't need that to be kind of screwy on us there. I mean, if you're a little bit off port and starboard, it's not a great big deal, as long as it's not too far. But where you can see it really good, because nobody can see both sides of the boat at the same time. So I'm not going to worry all about. We'll worry about that stuff later. I am going to knock this down over here though, just that half a mil, so that we can get that really nice look going. Almost there. Oh, that's not what I wanted. A little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and straighten, or not straighten, but we don't want it straight. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this off, and then we'll look at what else we need to do. And we want to make sure that we don't have any flat spots like right there. There we go. There's got to be a nice smooth curvature there all the way around. Okay, so with that done, now if you're wondering what this rag's here for, it's so that when we lay our boat down on top of it there, we're not grinding away any part of our boat on our work surface. Give it a little bit of cushion and support there. So I've got my profile fixed here on my deck to frame, and we're in good shape there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to take off these corners of all these frames, just in a vertical on both sides, so that we don't have any protrusions outside of the deck there. So, and we're going to do that the same way that we've been doing everything else here. Don't worry about getting all the char off. Eventually, with all of our sanding, most of that's probably going to disappear. I'm trying to stay in the vertical with the deck as much as possible. And that should help keep everything consistent. It's good to have a little dusting brush around too. An old paintbrush will work just as good. Or a new paintbrush if you like. Yeah, see, that goes really quick, so I'm going to go ahead and clean up all these other frames. Okay, so I zoomed out so we can see the whole boat. As you can see, I have knocked off those corners on those frames all the way around. And it goes pretty quick. So the next thing we need to do is we need to start bringing it in to the profile that we need. So we're going to start, I guess, at the bow. I need to knock this down. I'm not so sure this flimsy sanding stick is ideal for that. It's not really ideal. Now it's okay if you kind of get into the inner part of the keel here, because we're going to laminate some keel pieces over top of it, but you're going to want to stay away from it as much as possible. Might even be a good idea to put a little bit of masking tape on there, maybe. That might be good. I'm not taking my own advice for some reason, but I guess I'm waiting for an oopsie. And be like, yeah, should have done that. Hard to do on camera, of course, but now you can use a knife and knock it down really quick and then sand it on in. I'm just being stubborn, I guess. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and knock this one down and the one on the other side, and anywhere I've got these frames sticking up, I'm going to go ahead and knock them down to where they're not interfering with the shape, and then we'll start doing that profile sanding or fairing around the rest of the frames there. Okay, so I decided to take my own advice and use masking tape here to protect the keel portion here. I was getting really close to making some boo-boos. So, all right, so I went ahead and I trimmed these down some, as you can see. That way we don't have so much to sand. And now we're going to get into starting to do the profile. Now, this is what they want us to do. They want us to sand the profile across. I just don't know how this is going to work. It's so flexible. don't even know if I can do this on camera. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know that that's going to work for me. Be perfectly honest with you. Maybe in our final sanding, but to get the bulk of it down, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it like that. I just don't have the dexterity. So I'm just going to kind of point my sanding block off in the right direction. Well, I think it's the right direction. The trick is going to be getting this fared in. I got a small block somewhere. Yeah, that's starting to look like what it's supposed to be. So that is a tricky part right there. And really, there ain't but one thing to do, and that's to get in there and to do it. So this is going to take some careful sanding, as you can see. I'm just going to have to work at it. We want our profile here to come in, kind of like so. So I need to be careful and not get into the deck all that much. I mean, we do need to point it here when we fare in the little end there. But we're going to take it in sections. I'm going to do this, and then we can match over to our next frame. And you can kind of work, I guess you could work the frames into one another. I'm learning as I go. And as you guys can see, it goes really quick. We just want to go slow enough that we're not making a big mistake. So you need to sand a little, check your profile, sand a little more, check your profile. You know, wouldn't hurt to maybe get these frames down a little bit in line with one another and double checking it. Because we want maximum contact between our planking and the frames. But we also want to make sure that we're staying symmetrical with the other side. So work on one side, I'm going to move over and work on the other side. I'm just going to work right now, I think, from frame 5 forward to the bow. And then, I think it's how I'm going to divide it up, and then from frame 5 aft towards the stern. I think it's probably the best way to tackle this. But as you can see, you can just, it's hard for me to see and for you to see all at the same time. And then maybe we'll try to use our flexible sanding stick that they provided to finish off the contour. It's kind of what I'm going with. It's really hard to hold and to sand all at the same time, so that's what we got to work with. So yeah, I'm gonna fool with this and just kind of get it in. So I kind of got a bulge going on right there, that extra support I put in, so I need to thin that out. And that corner right there has to be really sharp coming up into our, where it's going to come up into the keel there. So that's kind of what we have to contend with there. And you can look back at the photographs that they provided in the booklet and try to match that as much as possible there. So I'm going to work on this from frame, that's how I'm going to divide mine up, frame 5 towards the bow, and then we'll work on our stern section. But I think the masking tape is going to keep us from really digging in to all the things that we don't want to dig into. We don't want to be doing that. All right, so I've been working on it for about an hour, I guess, since I put the tape on it. Yeah. So you want to make sure that my light's bad here, that you're symmetrical left and right as much as possible. And don't worry if you don't get rid of all the char. The thing that you want to make sure you're doing is getting a really good contact and nice sweep. And that includes all the different angles. Now some of these planks are going to bend quite a bit when we put them on, because you do have this twist coming up to the bow. But I don't think it's going to be an issue. Other people's done it, we can do it too. So one of the things I need to work on next is I need to fare it in right here. And shape the end of the deck there. So the deck is supposed to end right where these where the fairing comes in. I probably should have cut this earlier. There's that side. It's going to find out if our sides are even or not. Yeah, we're in good shape. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm going to cut this off camera. It's hard to do this hugging the camera. So I need to trim it up so it's flush so that I can fare all of this here from the #1 frame to there and get it symmetrical in the front, right there at the bow. So I'm going to trim this off and I'm going to sand this in and fare it just like I did the edge there, as you can see. Because we do have a plank that's going to run, our shear plank is going to run right up into it there. So it's got to have a place to go. So I did this one side right here. I just want to show you how it came out. Now the other side we haven't touched yet. The whole idea, of course, is when the shear plank comes in, if I can get all 8 of my fingers here, it needs to lay in really nice there. See that? If I get you in the frame there. Yeah. So it needs to lay in there just like that. Now obviously the other side, since I haven't done it, you can see how far off it is there. So yeah, just a little bit of sanding there and making sure that we get a nice curvature here from frame 1 up to the stem there. That way our plank will lay really nice across the edge of the deck there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, oh, and I'm really glad I put this tape on. As you can see, I really got into it there a couple of times there. So anyway, I do highly suggest putting that masking tape on the keel there. Anyway, we're going to start working back towards the stern here. And I think the best way for us to attack it, we do have a compound curve going on. Number 1, we're going this way. And then here at number 6, yeah, frame 6, we start to transition into this opposite lane turn, the way the hull is going to be fared in there, which is when this is going to come into hand. I hope it comes in handy to sand all that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take care of the sides first and fare those in. As you can see, I got it started there. I'm just going to fare it in to about right here, because then we got a compound curve changing direction there. So we're going to do that on both sides, and we're going to take it all the way to the transom, because this is pretty much all the same, except this is different back here, and we're going to have to deal with frame 9 there. As you can see, mine is really proud. So I'm going to do a lot of sanding on that. I'll probably just go ahead and take that all down. It's supposed to be flush right here with our center frame there, our spine. So got a lot of sanding to do there. Of course, this little teardrop here is going to totally disappear. So it's not going to be there anymore. So I'm going to get these sides fared in right up to where we need to change over and do some contour sanding in a different direction there. And I'm going to take number 9 down, and also the transom. As you can see, it goes pretty quick. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do that, and then we're going to look at doing this inner curve here. So that took me longer than I thought it was going to. It took me about 30 minutes to sand the stern section there. And frame number 9. One of the things you want to keep checking, though, while you're doing it, of course, is going to be your transition. Make sure everything's going to lay nicely. So we're in pretty good shape there. Yeah. So next up, we got to finish off these. And we're going to do that with this. And this is our 7/8 inch dowel that I use. You could use 1/2 inch. That would probably work just as well. As you can see, I'm sanding around the camera, so we've got to kind of aim it down this way and in at the same time. And we're going to have to get it up pretty close there. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing while I can see what I'm doing, but let me flip this over a little bit. Yeah. So I'm kind of doing both of them at the same time. What we need to be careful of is not to get into frame 9 here. Okay, so probably should use less dowel. Yeah, okay. Kind of going our way now. So that's the concept. And we're keeping a nice steady curve. Now, if you try to do this with anything else or try to do it by hand, you're not going to be very consistent, of course. It's really difficult to be consistent with just a piece of sandpaper. Now, I got to be perfectly honest with you. As always, their sanding stick here I've pretty much found useless. I mean, you got to do a lot of sanding, and it'd take me 6 weeks to fare this in with just this. Yeah. That's just me, I guess. Use what works. Now we're going to also have to get in here and fare in the spine section there, just like we did on the front or the bow, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get in there, of course. So we're going to keep working at it here. Sand some. And then check how your profile's laying as you're going. And this one's going to have, the garboard is going to have a twist to it here, and then the second planking is going to have even more of a twist, because I don't think the garboard goes all the way back. I don't know, it might. But anyway, you need to have enough of a transition there that you can actually get it glued up. So I'm going to keep sanding and working on this part, and we'll see where we go with that. So I'm doing the trickiest part, I think, which is the faring in here. We started off with our round dowel, and I just found that to get in really close, I was having trouble there. Now, you can do this with a folded piece of sandpaper, you know, and get in there and kind of take it down and fare it in. What I found easier to do is use these files here. Now, I haven't mentioned these before, I don't think. I may have. These are rifling files. I'll show you. That's these right here. Rifler file set. This is the 3mm by the 140mm, 10 pieces, made in China. There's their part number, 745RF. I got these off of Amazon. As you guys probably already know, I am an Amazon shopper. But they work pretty good, and we have several different profiles that we can use, and the two that I found the most useful for doing this is the flat one and then the semi-round one there, because when we do our planking, we don't need a hump here. I still have a slight hump there because the plank's going to come in and sweep down. So eliminating that sweep, and like I say, I mean, you can use sandpaper to do it. I just found it easier to use a file to do it. I can get in there and really get it close. And then right up on the edge, I can use the flat one there to make sure that I've got a good smooth transition, just to keep from having a hump. You don't want a hump there. So, because it should be a nice smooth sweep through there. And I just found the dowel, although it works really good for fairing in the majority of it, it doesn't really get up in here too good. And these need to be a good steady sweep down or up. I mean, we're upside down. So, yeah. So these are working really good for me here. And I've still got to address this side over here. And as you can see, I've got a hump. If I can get to the light where I need it. See that hump right there? Yeah, that hump's not supposed to be there. It should be a nice sweep. So I need to take those down. Otherwise, our garboard and our first planking is not going to sit right. It's going to have a hump in it. And it shouldn't have a hump in it because the planking is going to come right through here and turn this way. See what I'm saying? And because of that, that turn right there, see, yeah, that's a better way to show you. You don't want a hump. So make sure that you eliminate that hump there. Otherwise, your planking is not going to sit right. And they show us in the book, although they don't tell you that, but they do show us in the book what it's supposed to look like. And you can see that it is a steep transition from the keel to the frame. And then we just bevel in for that transition, because that plank's going to run over to our stern post here. So it needs to be a nice smooth turn there. So that's what I'm working on now. It does take a little bit of time to do, but we got most everything else done, and we're looking really good, I think. But I do need to get these humps down and get that transition nice and smooth there. Yeah, no big bumps here. Should be slightly concave, not convex. So that's what I'm working on. And we'll get that transition in, and we'll be probably just about done with fairing in our frames. And don't worry about, you know, if you've still got char on there or whatever. The most important thing is that you've got good contact. And I do need to reduce this one a little bit because it's too steep. See that? See how steep it is right there? I don't know, that might be okay. You just kind of figure it all out as you go. And keep checking the lay of all your frames there. That'll keep us from having problems. What we don't want to do is when we go to put our planking on, we don't want to have a sharp turn, because a real sharp turn on the frames is going to leave a bulge in our planking. So it just needs to be nice and smooth. Now you can be smooth at a more steep angle. You just don't want any bumps in it. So if that makes sense. I hope it does. So I'm going to keep working on these and get these down to where I feel comfortable with them there. Okay, so here we are back at the modeling bench, and I'm going to take off this masking tape that I put on to protect our spine or keel. And you can see where I got into it there in a few places, which I kind of expected I would, so I went ahead and put that tape on so that I wouldn't damage anything, or at least minimize my damage if I got too aggressive in my sanding there. So it looks like the tape did its job, which is always good. So I'm going to go ahead and strip this tape off, and then we'll kind of look at our edges there and see if we did any real damage to it. So we're in good shape. Now, I did pull some fibers up from the tape. That's all right. We're going to glue some strips over top of that. So we're in good shape there. It's no big deal. Yeah, I mean, look, we look pretty good. I'm pretty sure, well, at least I'm happy with the fairing in of the frames. Don't worry about not getting all the char off or anything. The most important part is making sure that you've got a good lay for your planking. So I believe we're fine. Always good to go back and double check. Make sure everything's going to look right. So I think we're in good shape here. We look at least as good as the pictures. So let's see what else we got. So we're up to step 10 here. This is the stem, keel, and stern post. The outer layers of these can now be added. And it goes on and tells us about it. We're going to be leaving a rabbet for the first or the garboard plank. Avoid gluing the spacer or movable centerboard if you have installed it. We have. You're going to put these pieces on and sand the bottom surface. And then we're going to add a stern post pieces. And then we're going to add the central plank at the stern, which is this piece here. So we're going to be putting in all these pieces on the keel and in our stern plank there. This is where all the planking is going to come and meet in the aft section there. Okay, I think we're in good shape. So sheets 2 and 5 have the pieces that we need. Stern, it says stern post, yeah. Stern post starboard side, stern post port side, keel port side, keel starboard side. So they're all marked out for us, port side and starboard side. So I was just looking to make sure that they are labeled correctly. Just in case they weren't, then we would we'd have to look at that just to make note of it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these pieces out, and I'm going to mark them on the inside where they go. And so let me get these pieces out. Okay, so I have freed up all the parts that we need, and I've mocked up one side there, which is the starboard side. And this right here is our little plank that we're going to put in right here. So this is on the sheet, and also we have this rabbit spacer. So it's a tool that they've laser cut into the fret for us to use to set up our the outer portions of our keel. Now, as you can see here, I put it on and I clamped it into place, and I just lined it up with the top and with the back edge there. And I wanted to see if I put it up flush, if it was going to work out for me. And as you can see, our spacer goes in and we're fine. Which means maybe we did something right when we did our fairing in. I don't know. So yeah, we're in good shape there. Now I haven't glued it yet, of course. We do have a little puzzle pattern there underneath the clamp where it locks in. I'm not going to clean the char off of it there. I don't want to change its dimension because it seems to be right where it needs to be. And I'll show you. Yes, the groove looks larger here and definitely in the turn there. That's not a big deal because when we put this plank in and take and bend it, it's going to get longer up towards where it's going to butt up against the inside of the rabbet. And that's what these keel parts do. They create a rabbet rather than us having to cut one. One thing that you want to double check on, though, is that when those planks come in up here at the bow, you don't want them standing proud. And you can see right there, that's a good fit for us. You can kind of see how it's going to engage from the rabbet, through the rabbet, and then back across the frames there. So you don't want to put this too close. If you stand your rabbet spacer straight up, your slot is going to get narrow, and then it's not going to accept your plank. Okay, just remember, when you go from a 90 degree to whatever degree, right, that engaging edge right there at my thumb, that gets longer. Okay? Sounds like a lot of explanation. But, yeah. We're in good shape. Looks good. We don't have any issues with it. I'm going to go ahead and glue this up. You don't need to watch me spread glue. I'm just going to put it back in the same place that I have it now. I'm going to double check it with my spacer. But everything appears that as long as I put it flush, we're in good shape. And we're going to start right here at the very aft section of our keel for our placement. Just put it flush with that, and then I'm just going to glue it up and clamp it back into place. Double check it just to make sure that everything is sitting correctly. The other important thing is you need to remember, if you have installed the center board so that it works, which ours does. It's full of sawdust, but it works. Do not put any glue on that. Okay, so it's kind of going to be freeboard through there, right where our center board is. So you don't want to glue if you've done all the work that we've done on this one to make sure that our center board is workable, then you don't want to, at the last second, glue it into place. So something to watch out for there. So just make sure you don't get any glue coming over onto the center board. And other than that, though, I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these up. So I've got our keel all glued up. And what I'm doing right now is I'm straightening out the edges on our stern plank here. As you guys know from previous videos and everything, from the laser cutting, it will have a slight taper to it. And we don't want that, because that'll induce some gaps, and we don't want gaps in there. I already squared that end. That's the end that's going to go up next to where the hole is for our rudder. I just want to check it and make sure that I'm square. Appears to be square. Kind of hard to tell sometimes. So yeah, we're going to sand this. I am going to rake it a little bit here. Got a little bit of squeeze out that I did not get off. But it's not fully cured, so I'll just get rid of those little blobs of glue. So, looking at this, move everything around where you can see what I'm doing. Zoom in a little bit, maybe. There we go. So that's my squared end. Well, we're going to have to sight this up. And we have to leave the hole open there for our the shaft on our rudder there that goes there. And it's going to overhang a little bit, but we do need to be in the middle. It looks good. It always looks good before you put glue on things. I don't think I'm going to be able to not going to be able to clamp it. So I'm just going to use finger pressure. I think I got enough glue here to do this. To hold it in place until it grabs. So do need to take glue all the way to the end there of our bevel on our transom that we sanded in there. Okay. Probably more glue than I need. Clean my applicator off there, which is my toothpick. I'm just trying to decide which side I want out. Doesn't really matter. So we're going to side it up here. Get it to wiggle over. I want it in the middle where it's optically pleasing. That didn't look bad. Press it down. And of course it squiggled around. So one of you guys suggested using salt. If you put salt in your glue, or little bit of salt on the glue, you can, it'll stop things from wiggling around on you. I haven't tried that, but the glue will dissolve the salt and it won't hold anything off, apparently. I'm going to have to try that and see if it actually works, or if it works for me. Now, I am leaving a very slight space up there. That's kind of how it looks in the book. I'm not sure why they did it that way, but I'm going to do it that way. And you can't see what I'm doing, can you? So after you get the squeeze out off of it, if it does not look right, you need to take it off immediately. Because once it sets up, you're kind of stuck with it there. That's a glue pun. Getting stuck to your work here. And you can use the water and brush method there to clean it up. I don't think I need to do that. I just want to make sure I get all the excess glue off here. I don't need anything holding me out of alignment. When we go to lay our planks in, because the planks are going to wrap around here and they're going to butt up right against this transom plank, I guess. Well, it's not a guess. That's what the instructions tell us and the pictures look like. So as you can see right there, see how they leave a little space there just aft of the hole for our rudder shaft to go in. So I've done that and it kind of looks like that, so I'm going to kind of go with it. I'm kind of sighting it up here to see if my plank looks like it's supposed to. Yeah, it looks all right. Now, what can throw you sometimes is the different colors from the char and stuff that's sanded versus not sanded and all that. So just make sure that you kind of space yourself evenly between the extra supports there and the edges and get it in there. So that looks good. Now we're not going to do anything more to this plank that we just put on. It's going to get trimmed and sanded down along with the whole back of the stern, here the transom, after the planking's on. So we're looking really good there. So I think I'm dry enough here to do some sanding. Get everything out of my way here. So the instructions tell us to sand and level our keel. And I'm going to do that with my sanding block. Now, if you have your centerboard is protruding a little bit, and you've got it, make sure you got it all the way up. I've got it all the way retracted. So it shouldn't be in the way. But if it just a little bit of it is actually down, then at this point you can dress it. So I'm going to sand it until everything's nice and even. And I'm going to come back here and clean this up. And clean our bow up too. So that it all looks nice. Then we'll take a look at it. So one of the things I'm going to do, I'm sanding the inside edges here of our keel that we just put on, just to keep the fuzzies away. And you can do this with your with the center board in the retracted position there, just to clean it up. Not too worried about the rest of the edges and stuff, because we're going to sand all of our planking. So I just want to make sure I got that taken care of. And our centerboard works just fine. So I didn't inadvertently glue it in place, so we're in good shape there. Okay, so we're looking really good. Okay, so that has been step 10. There's a little bit more left over here that we haven't attended to. Well, we kind of did, but I'll show you what I mean. It says here, finally add the two stem pieces in the same way. Sand the forward surface smooth. Finally, sand the top of the stem head flush to the deck. You're now ready to begin planking the hull. So the stem head is what they're talking about. This little section right here. So they want us to sand it flush to the deck. The only problem is on our actual kit, you can see where the char is there. I did flush it a little bit there with some sandpaper, but it's not tall enough. So ours is stepped, just like you see it there, rather than being flush like this one is. I don't think it's going to matter in the end anyway. When we put our bowsprit on and all that, I think it's going to be fine. Something though to be aware of, that I think maybe these instructions are from the test build, and then later on in production they changed some stuff, and maybe the instructions just don't reflect that. So anyway, next up is going to be, as I mentioned before, the planking. Now they do give us some planking hints here, which of course, you know, we'll read through it and everything, but for now, I think that will be it. So I'm just looking here. I don't know what I call that little plank there at the stern. I think it says, then add the central plank. I think I called it the stern plank, just for clarity. Yeah. So yeah, we got that done. So when we started out the video, we did all of our fairing in of all of our frames, and do take your time and fire in the frames and get a nice transition. if you don't do that, you're going to have issues, or maybe just larger issues with the planking, more so than you would normally. So yeah, make sure you do that, and make sure that you get your space right. There, we're adding these side pieces here for our bow, the keel, and the stem back here. Those give us the rabbet, which is the slot that we need for our planking. So we've got all that taken care of. So next up is planking. And of course that's not going to be in this video. We're going to do that. I'm going to try to do all the planking in one video. So make sure that you get the fairing in of the frames good, smooth, nice transition from one frame to the other. That way, you'll be ready for planking. Now, if you are building this boat or building along with me, let me know. And if you're ahead of me or behind me, let me know that too. So, yeah. Just checking to see. We'll be starting with the garboard plank. Well, there you go. So, special thanks to all my subscribers, because you guys that I make these videos. And I hope that you enjoyed this one. And if you're new to the channel, I hope that I earned your subscription. Just a word of note, when it comes to building these wooden boats, I am no expert. And I'm doing this 3-boat series to learn all the skills necessary to build bigger boats, or better boats, or both. So, all right, till I see you guys next Wednesday, you guys stay safe.